What's up guys, Jordan coming at you with a brand new video. In today's video we got a lot to cover. We have NASCAR releasing their remainder of the schedule for the season, the choose rule in effect starting at Michigan. We have the new format for formulating the starting format on NASCAR races going forward for 2020. And last but not least, we got the unofficial announcement, if you will, of Erik Jones not returning to the 20 car in 2021 for Joe Gibbs Racing. So what does that all mean? Well, we got a lot to unpack, so let's just jump right into the video. Before we jump into the video, I do want to mention I think we finally landed on a name for this NASCAR YouTube series, these episodes, whatever you want to call it. We are going with, drumroll please, The High Side. I hope you guys like it. I'm a big fan of it. All the polls I ran on social media, everybody always voted The High Side as the highest one out of all the names we had pondered about. So I hope you guys like it. If you do, make sure you smack that like. But anyways, let's get into the news. The first big news released today was NASCAR announced the remainder of the NASCAR schedule for the trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup cars. I will throw it up on the screen for you guys to take a look. The Cup schedule remains pretty much exactly the same as it was. The bigger changes come in the Xfinity and the Truck Series. For the Xfinity Series, Talladega is now part of the playoffs. Bristol is now the regular season finale, and the series has Vegas as the playoff opener. For the Truck Series, we have Kansas and Texas being added to the playoffs, as well as Richmond being the last regular season race. Bristol is also going to be the season opener, and the one I am most excited about, Darlington, has been added to the NASCAR Truck Series schedule, which I think is going to be amazing. For that Darlington truck race, I'm really hoping to see some neat throwback paint schemes. We got Ron Hornaday, Mike Skinner, Todd Bodine, Mark Martin, even though he only made a few starts, had an awesome paint scheme that I think would look really awesome in the truck throwback race. Hopefully we'll see a little bit of that. And speaking of throwbacks for the Cup race and Xfinity race, I haven't heard too many. I'm sure the you-know-what, I won't mention it, has played a large role or effect in that. I know some throwback schemes have been announced, but not as nearly as many as we've seen in the past. Hopefully going forward that will be the case, and we'll see a few more pop up before Darlington rolls around. But going back to the schedule, as far as the Cup Series, the second round of the playoffs, although it remains the same, is still going to be super crazy. I think it's going to be the most intense round yet. We have Las Vegas, Talladega, and the Roval. So of course everybody is going to be shooting to try and get the win at Vegas so they can stay safe at Talladega and the Roval. The Roval isn't as much of a crapshoot as Talladega is, but definitely there's a lot of unknowns going into that race. So Vegas is going to have a big circle on it for a lot of teams going for that win, and hopefully they can slide through to the third round. So we'll see how that plays out. I think that'll be really exciting for us fans. As far as fan attendance in the remaining races on the NASCAR schedule, there's still not a lot out there as far as which races will and will not allow fans and how many. Some tracks have made announcements, some haven't. I know Texas is definitely planning to have fans back at the track like they did earlier this year. I am personally planning to attend the Roval race. I go to that race every year, and I actually just got an email today asking if I would like to go. They haven't made an official statement for the Roval race if they're allowed to have fans or not, but I think they're just planning ahead to know how many people are interested. So hopefully we'll get some news on which races people can attend and which can't. I am really hoping I get to go to the Roval. Otherwise, it'll be the first year since probably the 90s I haven't been to at least one race in a NASCAR season, which is crazy. So hopefully I'll get to go to the Roval, and I'll keep you guys updated in future videos. One thing I want to mention, although it doesn't have to do with the 2020 schedule, is the 2021 schedule. Maybe, potentially, we could see it by the end of the month. Bob Pockrass reported on Twitter, although not official, he expects to see it by the end of the month. So hopefully we do. We could see some big changes. We do know Nashville Speedway is going to be on there. But other than that, we don't know what big changes are coming. We do know that NASCAR is looking at making changes to the schedule. We don't know if a lot of races are going to have 2 races again next year like we've seen the last 5 years. So stay tuned for that. Of course, once that's released, we'll cover it here on The High Side. The second big announcement coming from NASCAR today was that there was a new formula announced to set the starting lineups for races going forward, not including Michigan, but all races going forward after that. This all started when drivers started to actually complain, and we heard some rumblings. Jimmy Johnson sent out a tweet saying he was questioning whether it was a random draw because he was actually starting in the 20th position multiple times, and Eric Almirola was actually starting on the front row. I believe 5 times he started on the front row with this random draw. Of course, with the old system that they had in place, there was a random draw depending on where you were in points. If you were 1 through 12, you started in within one of those positions, and then 12 through 24, and so on and so on. Now, with this new formula that they have going forward, it works like this. Points positions will count for 35% of your starting position. Your finishing position from the last race will count for 50%. And your fastest lap from the last race will count for 15% of the formula they'll calculate to determine where the drivers are going to start for the next race. For me personally, it wasn't a big deal. I was okay either way. I understand as a driver how that could seem frustrating, especially for someone like Jimmy Johnson. I know Eric Almirola is probably shrugging his shoulders, probably a little disappointed that the new formula was released. But this new formula that was announced by NASCAR, I think it does 3 things. It rewards speed, performance, and consistency. Rewards the speed, obviously, for the fastest lap, for your performance from the last race, and consistency based on your points. So I think it kind of meshes them all 3 together really well, and so I think it'll work really well going forward. There's actually 2 things I want to mention about this new formula that NASCAR announced going forward. One is if there's a tiebreaker when they do the formula and people are supposed to be starting in the same position, NASCAR will go back and fall back on owner points. So depending on who's higher in the owner points, that car will start farther ahead. And as I mentioned previously of how the system didn't mention playoffs in the old random draw format, well, in this format for the playoffs, all those cars will be spotted at the top spots for that round, probably based off points or the formula as well, but they will all start 1 through 16, and I'm sure as the playouts go on and people are eliminated, that will shift as well. The third big piece of news that was released by NASCAR today is the choose rule is now going to be used going forward starting at Michigan. We saw this a little bit at the NASCAR All-Star race at Bristol recently, where drivers get to choose whether they want to start on the inside or the outside, depending on where the people in front of them want to start. With this change, we won't see drivers playing pit games on pit road, trying to slow down, trying to start on the inside or outside, whatever the preferred line is for whichever racetrack we're at, which drivers have been complaining about and asking for a long time. The second thing I think this really adds is a dimension of strategy for the drivers. Now drivers have to determine if they want to start a few rows ahead or start on the preferred groove, whichever track that might be. It might look a little different. So this will definitely be interesting and a new wrinkle to the races that I think a lot of people are going to get behind. And one thing to mention with the choose rule is this will not take place at road courses, Daytona, or Talladega, but it will take place at all other tracks throughout the NASCAR season going forward, including 2021 and beyond. The last big piece of news I want to talk about today is Erik Jones. It was announced unofficially that Erik Jones will not return to the 20 car at Joe Gibbs Racing in 2021. Of course, this comes after the news that Levine Family Racing is closing its doors at the end of the season, where Christopher Bell is currently driving, and of course he drives for Toyota and is basically on loan from Joe Gibbs Racing to drive in the 95 this year. So I believe, and I think many speculate as well, that Christopher Bell will take over the 20 car in 2021. So Jordan, a few minutes in the future here, I wanted to just jump in. As I was editing this video, saw a tweet come out from Erik Jones and Joe Gibbs Racing saying they are going to split in 2021. I will read Erik Jones' statement here, see what he says. And Erik says, I greatly appreciate the opportunity JGR provided me over the last 4 years, and I wish the team nothing but success and good fortune. JGR gave me a solid base from which to go and out and compete at the highest level, and I look forward to building on that foundation in the years to come. So it is officially official that Erik Jones and Joe Gibbs Racing are splitting in after 2020. So it'll be exciting to see where he lands in 2021. Now the question becomes, where does Erik Jones land in 2021? I definitely think he lands a ride in the Cup Series. I think there's no question about that. He has a long future ahead of him. He's obviously got Cup wins under his belt. There's a lot of promise still in him. And now that the big players are out as far as free agents, we know Brad Keselowski re-signed with Team Penske. And at this point, Kyle Larson doesn't seem to be coming back next year unless for some odd reason he lands at Sewerhaus Racing, which at this point I don't see that happening, but it wouldn't be a shocker. And of course, there's also Bubba Wallace, but we don't know where his future is. If I was Team Hendrick, I would pick up the phone today and be calling Erik Jones if they want to keep running the 48. I think he's your top prospect at the moment. I would give him a call. He fits the bill for Team Hendrick. He's clean cut, well spoken, and I think he would be a good ambassador for that team. And of course, I think he would also be competitive. So if I had a prediction, I believe Erik Jones will probably end up in the 48, but that's just my wild prediction. I could be totally wrong, and we could see him land somewhere else. I would love to hear what you guys think. Where do you guys think he will land in 2021, or where do you want him to land in 2021? I think there's a lot of potential there, and I'm excited to see where that goes. We did cover a lot of big items today, so we won't be going over an odd racing fact in today's video. There's a lot of to digest here and think about and see how things play out. And hopefully next week won't be as crazy as far as the NASCAR news. I would love to talk about the new SRX series coming up with Tony Stewart and Ray Evernham running that. We'll try and do that in a future video. So if you guys enjoyed, make sure you hit that like button. If you are new and you're just checking it out and you want to stay tuned for more news, opinion, and odd history, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell. Of course, as I mentioned, I do stream on Twitch, a lot of iRacing, of course. So if you want to follow me there, there's a link in the description. And I do stream on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes on the weekends, usually after 8 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you in a future stream. If not, I'll see you guys next time.